Hello and welcome back to my channel. As promised, this video is going to be on the cost of living in the UK versus Australia. Now, as I understand, prices are due to go up in July in Australia like they do here in April. So what I have in the UK is the most up to date. I will probably have to update the Oz budget a bit later on in the year to reflect the July increase, but this is the latest that I have to hand. So I thought I'd share it with you. Thought it might be interesting for people that are potentially looking to make the move also. Stick around and I'll share with you what I have. First up then, we've got council tax. So here in the UK we pay £270 a month, so that's just gone up in line with the April price rises. So we live in a 4-bedroom detached property in Suffolk, so we're paying £270 a month, which is equivalent to £3,240 a year. Looking at an equivalent property in Brisbane, we're looking at $190 a month, which is £95, and that would be $2,280 for the year, which works out with the exchange rate of $2 to the pound, so I'll be using that for this video, is £1,140. In Australia the council tax is probably 2/3 less roughly than what we're paying here in the UK, so I still can't get my head around that one, to be honest. So that's a big one where we're going to make some huge savings in Australia. Here in the UK we have to pay extra for green waste collections, so like your garden waste. We currently pay an extra £54 a year for that, so that's $108. To have it collected on a fortnightly basis, and that is all year round. I know some councils only do it for some months of the year, so that's an additional charge as well. That would be included, as I understand, in Australia. So next we have water. So we currently pay £59 a month, so that works out at £708 a year. I think I did read that bills might be going up on average, 20% this year. So in Oz that would be $123 a month, or $1,476 a year roughly. So it works out about the same here versus Australia. However, the difference is that I'm really hoping there's not loads of sewerage in the water in Australia, because it's actually treated properly, so I could actually go for a swim. I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole here, so yeah, I'd say the quality is far better over there, wouldn't you? Now looking at energy, so we currently pay direct debit. So here in the UK our usage will be different depending on the season. So what most people do here is they pay it over 12 months, so you're not landed with huge bills in the winter. So we currently pay £171 a month. The equivalent in Australia would be $1,596, so £798. We are on a fixed tariff, so we took that out September last year, so that's due to expire this September. So basically means here in the UK it's at a fixed price, so your electric charges, unit charges, and your gas, and your standing charges as well, which I'll come on to. That's due to go up by roughly 10% when we come to renew, so that would add potentially another £200-ish to the bill next year, for not any extra usage, just the same. In the UK we do have a thing called a standing charge, so you have to pay that each for your gas and electric, and that's basically a charge for being connected to the supply. It does cover more than that, but I won't bore you with it. But we currently pay 75p a day, so I've just done the math, so that works out as £273 roughly a year, just being connected. So that's roughly 13% of our bill. I don't know if you have a similar thing in Australia, please let me know in the comments. That amount I've just told you, we're not having the heating on all day in every room in winter. We have a gas fire in the lounge, so during the day that's where I'll be, because I'm a stay-at-home mum. So we kind of base our time down there, and I'll just heat the one room. I might heat the whole house in the morning just to sort of take the chill off, and then the heating won't really go on again till sort of, I don't know, 3-4. So yeah, I'm having the heating on a lot less than usual, and I'm paying a hell of a lot more. So yeah, not great, is it? So internet's a bit of a biggie. So we're currently getting 900 megs here in the UK. We're paying £31 a month. We're looking at, in Oz, only getting 100 meg, and that's looking at $87 a month, which would be £43.50. Paying a bit more, probably about 25% more, and obviously getting nowhere near the speeds we are here, but can't change that one, can we? So unfortunately that is what it is. So now on to building and contents insurance. So we currently pay around £373 a year for that, and the equivalent in Australia would be £768. Brisbane is known for being a high flood risk kind of area, so I'm assuming that's why it is higher over there. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. But again, another bill that we can't really change, really, can we? So that's where we are with that one. Life insurance, we're currently paying about £396 a year, so that's for me and my husband, and we're looking at $840 in Oz, which is about £420, so pretty much the same. So mobile plans, so currently paying £16 a month for 2 mobiles, and we're getting 15 gig on those. The cost of mobile plans has come down quite dramatically since COVID, as more people work from home, so we don't actually need that much data. In Oz, for a 25 gig plan, we're looking at £32 or $64 a month, but we are getting a bit more data for that at least. So I imagine we would need a bit more in Oz if we're both going into work for the city, and also I'm assuming they don't have so many free Wi-Fi spots as we have in the UK, so we're quite lucky here. Car insurance now, so on our last one we paid £472 for the year, so we're looking at $1,200 or £600 in Oz, so that's for 2 of us driving 1 vehicle. Obviously that will be a bit more potentially if we move, because I think we would need perhaps a car each, so transport is an area that would potentially be higher in Oz. Looking at petrol next, so we currently spend around £100 a month. We share 1 car, we live in a rural village, and we're not really going out that much really, or going that far. So, and in Oz I've been told to expect to spend around $290-ish a month, which is about £150, and that is based on 1 vehicle. So now looking at car tax here in the UK versus, I suppose the equivalent would be like your Rego. So here ours is £190 for the year. In Oz that would be $792, which is about £396. Right, the next 2 are pretty easy. So in the UK we spend around £430 a month on our food shop, so that's for me, my husband and my 2-year-old daughter. I don't go over the top, and I do cook as much as I can from scratch, and we're using what's left in the cupboard and things like that. So yeah, it is a really basic shop. When we were there in February, we sort of cooked similar recipes to what we would here, and it was working out roughly the same. Some things were more, some things were less, and for us it averaged out the same as the UK now, which just shows just how much groceries have gone up in the UK. But again, it depends on what you eat, what your diet is, and how you operate. If I was working full time, I probably would be eating a lot more convenience food, and that would put the price up. But takeouts, we're spending about £120 a month. We usually have one about once a week-ish, or a bit less, and that would be about the same spend if we were in Oz, but potentially we could get more takeouts for that money, because we did notice that takeouts were a lot cheaper in Oz, and actually eating out was as well now. So you're looking at £18 to £20 where we live for a pub meal now. We found that was a lot cheaper in Oz. So pet insurance, we're paying £30 a month, and it's about the same in Oz. Dog food, we spend around £21 a month, so we get like the dry biscuits, but they've got a lot of meat in them, high meat content, and no nasties, no grain. So the equivalent in Oz would be $552, which is about £276 versus £248 in the UK, so about the same for that one as well. So we've just had to get our dogs yearly boosters done actually. So for one, the yearly booster jab plus the kennel cough, that was £120, and from what I've seen that's about $252 or £126 in Oz, so again roughly the same. You won't be surprised to learn that flea and worming is roughly the same in the UK and Australia, so currently spend about £10 a month, and that would be $21, around $10.50 in Australia, so pretty much the same again for that one. So it looks like the dog, we'll be okay with the dog if we move. Right, next on to medical. So looking at dentists, so here me and my husband go to the hygienist once a year, so that's not covered by the NHS if you want a more extensive clean done. So we're currently paying £75 a visit, so £150 for both of us for the year. As I understand, that would be $600 or £300 in Oz, so that's double what we're paying here. I forgot to include the fee for a checkup at the dentist. So if you're lucky enough to have an NHS dentist here in the UK, the most you'll be paying is £27.40 if you're eligible to be paying. Obviously, kids are free, and that compares to what I've researched as $150 per checkup in Australia. And I assume children are eligible for paying that also, which is something that we don't currently have to do in the UK. We're also lucky to have bandings in the UK. So for example, a band 2 is currently £75.30, so that will cover things like fillings. And then band 3 is capped at £326.70, so that's for more intensive treatments, for example, a root canal. Okay, so I've moved indoors now because it got a bit too windy out there. So moving on to trips to the doctors. So unfortunately we did have to go to the GP a couple of times while we were in Australia. So for those visits we paid around $100 each, which works out at £50. But we could have got a rebate back. So we do have, my husband does have Medicare, and we didn't do it while we were there, but if we wanted to, we could get around $40 back. So that appointment would cost actually around $60, which is £30. In the UK, we're really lucky that we don't pay for any GP appointments, they're all free. Likewise with medication here in the UK, we're extremely lucky that they are capped per item. So the most you'll ever pay is at the moment £9.90, which is around $20 per item. And as I was saying earlier, like with the dentist, there are some exemptions, so not everyone will have to pay that fee. So this ties in nicely with the next one, which is private healthcare. That is something that we do currently have here in the UK. So we're currently paying £134 a month. So that is for me, my husband and my daughter. Nothing extravagant, that is kind of a mid-level plan, I suppose. So as I understand, it's money that you put aside for a rainy day. We can still use the NHS, and that is what we have been doing. Touch wood, we haven't had to use the private healthcare yet, but it's more sold as should you need something in the future and there's a long waiting list, then you could go to a private hospital instead. You could get access potentially to medicines that aren't available on the NHS, etc, etc. So it's kind of, you know, you don't really use it unless you have to, really. Whereas in Oz, I looked at a quote for the Silver Plus plan, so that was coming out at $248 a month, which works out as £124, so roughly the same as here. However, I do get the feeling that people do claim a lot more over there, and when you take out an insurance policy, insurers fully expect that you're going to claim on that, so it is viewed a bit differently from what I saw, my experience. So please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about that. So it's a bit like the UK here. There are add-ons for like mental health and things, accommodation, sort of hotels. So here, £500 could get you 3 nights in a hotel or an Airbnb, whereas for £550 or about $1,100, we did get a nice, was a 3-bed apartment in Mooloolaba. I hope I said that right, and that was on the Sunshine Coast, and we had a beach view, saw the ocean, so it's round about the same as the UK, but I do feel like you get better value for money, and the spec was far, far higher than what you'd get here. I think if the equivalent was in the UK, you'd be talking probably triple. I have actually just recently booked a hotel in Leeds over a bank holiday coming up, and that's working out as £82, so around $160, and that's actually quite cheap. And that's not fancy, that's just a travel lodge. Nothing against travel lodge, happy to stay there, but that is probably, you know, the lowest to mid-range hotel out there now. So lastly, looking on to housing. I'm not going to share what we spend on our mortgage, that's a bit too personal, but I did look up the averages. So at the moment, the most recent data that I could find, the average house price in the UK, you're looking at £268,000. So that works out as $536,000. In Suffolk, where we're living, the average house price, you're looking at slightly more, so £322,000. And that's working out as, that would be $644,000 if you were to convert it. Likewise, comparing to Brisbane, so just overall the Brisbane area, you're looking at an average house price now of $977,000, which works out as £488,500. So there's a bit of a difference there. So housing is definitely more expensive in Brisbane. Obviously it does depend on the area that you're living in Brisbane. Some will be higher, some will be lower, and we haven't quite decided 100% what area we're going to potentially move to yet. We're still looking. Then also looking at mortgage rates. So considering that housing is so much more expensive in Australia, from what I could research, the lowest mortgage rate I could find was 5.19%, whereas here in the UK now the lowest 2-year fix you can get is about 3.79%. Obviously that does depend on your loan to value and how much deposit that you have, and also some of those might involve what they call a product fee, so a fee to set up the mortgage. And lastly, moving on to rent. So the average rent in the UK is £1,326, which works out as $612 per week. So I know in Oz you guys like to do it weekly, or that works out as $2,652 a month. In Suffolk, average rent here is about the same, so you're looking at £1,308, and that will get you a 1 to 2 bed property. So it could be a flat, or it could be a house. In Brisbane, average rents are looking at $125 per week. Here we like to do monthly when we're paying the rent, so that works out as £1,354 per month, or $2,708 per month, and that would be, as I understand, for a house. So yeah, I was quite surprised actually. In terms of rent, it's about the same from what I've researched. Again, keen for any feedback. Obviously Google only tells you one thing, but in reality it might be way more than that, because in the UK we are also experiencing a housing shortage. However, a point to note is that I do feel like in the UK you do get a lot of variety of properties to choose from that might suit different budgets, so it potentially might be a little easier to get on the housing ladder here. And we do have properties like small cottages, flats, terraced houses, so everybody has their dream house in mind, but I feel like there is more scope potentially to enter the market in a smaller property here in the UK and work your way up, whereas in Australia, from what we saw, it's mainly units or apartments, townhouses, and then detached houses. Basically that's the majority of them are detached. So I suppose there's not really as many in between size properties as there are here in the UK. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes in the future. I hope that's been useful for those who are planning to make the move also. I'd be really grateful for any feedback on where you guys live, how prices compare there. It doesn't have to be Brisbane, doesn't have to be the UK. It's just interesting at the moment. I think most places are experiencing their own cost of living crisis, so it would be just really interesting to see in everybody's respective countries what you're roughly spending on things. Thanks for listening. I hope it's been useful, and hopefully see you on a future video. Take care everyone, have a lovely day. Bye.